Sam Long. I'm the Community Outreach Manager for Autism Tennessee. Thank you all for coming out this evening to our Attract Healthy Relationships panel, made possible through funding approved by the community via the Metropolitan Nashville Participatory Budget Vote. That is a lot. The vote in 2024. This panel is a part of a larger education program that was funded called Attract Healthy Relationships, a sexuality education program designed for autistic teens, autistic adults, and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The program supports participants in building knowledge, confidence, and decision-making skills related to relationships, boundaries, identity, and personal well-being. Throughout the grant, Autism Tennessee has facilitated 2 sets of classes in partnership with our Nashville Public Library system to bring inclusive and comprehensive sexual education to our disability communities. So thank you to the residents of Davidson County and the city of Nashville for voting for this project to be made a priority. Your investment is helping more inclusive education and community well-being become more possible for the Tennessee disability community. And if you'd like to learn more about the Attract program, you can visit autismtn.org/attract.
Awesome.
Tonight's panel is about cross-neurotype relationships and communication within healthy relationships. Traditionally, autistic communication has been labeled as a social deficit, and communication breakdowns have been attributed to shortcomings within the autistic individual. Recent research recognizes that autistic people don't lack social skills, rather, they simply have specific different ones. Cross-neurotype communication, or communicating with people who have a different brain from you, is considered a core communication competency in building relationships that are neuroaffirming for everyone involved. So we have a panel of various neurotypes here, the full spectrum, as well as some neurotypical folks, or someone who doesn't fall under that umbrella. Before we dive in, we want to remind you that we're in Zoom land. We're all in the comfort of our homes, so it's a body-mind friendly space. Feel free to stim, sit up, stand up, fidget, doodle, move your body, step away, turn your camera on or off, or whatever works best for you. Because we're all coming from the comfort of our homes, feel free to do what you would normally, but please keep in mind this session's being recorded for public distribution. We're hoping to put it available on our YouTube channel after the session. We also want to introduce or remind you of Autism Tennessee's participation agreements during tonight's panel. We might all be coming from different backgrounds and experiences, so please be kind, create space for diverse perspectives, and understand that we're all here to learn. We ask that you stay muted throughout the panel, but you're welcome to use the chat to ask questions and engage with the panelists. We'll have some time at the end for questions, where I'll invite anyone who would like to come off mute or share your question from the chat with the panelists for them to answer. We also wanted to frame today's conversation by providing some working definitions of some common terms we'll be using throughout the evening. So words like cross-neurotype, mental health, rejection, sensitive, dysphoria, that's another big one, and stimming. So we'll start with one, and more definitions will pop up on the screen throughout this evening's conversation. And you may have heard me say cross-neurotype a lot already this evening. So what exactly does that mean? Cross-neurotype refers to interactions or relationships between individuals with different neurotypes. For example, autistic and non-autistic people. These interactions can feel effortful at times, not because anyone's doing something wrong, but because people may process, express, and interpret social information differently. Neurotypical folks do this too. Building a healthy relationship requires a lot of effort, communication, consideration, and other factors our panelists will give more context for. So with that, we'll get into our questions. Panelists, you're welcome to answer or not answer any of these that you're comfortable with. I'll call on each of you to reply as you show up in my Zoom windows here. And if you don't wish to reply, you can just say pass. We'll start by saying having you say your name, a little bit about yourself, pronouns, and any information you'd like to share in regard to your relationship with other folks on the panel. Um, so, Ashley, you are first in Zoom land for me. If you'd like to come off mute.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My name is Ashley C. Um, Pronouns is she, her. And I love everybody here. So good to see y'all. And yeah, I'm glad to be part of this panel. I don't know if there's anything else I need to share, but yeah, that's all I got.
That's great, Ashley. Thank you. We're so, so glad you're here and back on another panel with us. All right. And Casey, you are next in my Zoom bubble.
All right. My name's Casey Davis, pronouns she or they, and I am excited to be on this panel with everyone here. In particular, I'll call out Danny Nagy, who is my life partner, spouse, love, romantic love. So that is who I'm connected to in that way here. But I'm connected to all of y'all in a lot of different ways.
Amazing. Thank you, Casey. We're glad you're here. Amy and Matt, you're up.
Here we go. Okay, I'm Amy, and I work at Autism Tennessee with Sam. I'm one of the co-facilitators for the Attract Healthy Relationships classes, and I'm really excited to be on this panel with my partner.
Matt. And Amy and I have been dating for quite a while now, and living together. So we are excited to be on this panel talking about cross-neurotype communication.
Yeah.
Yay. Glad y'all are here. Danny, you're up.
Oh, I'm up. Hey guys, I'm Danny Nagy. Nice to meet everybody, but I know pretty much most of the bodies there. Casey is my life partner, my love, my wife, and yeah. What else? I don't know what else to say. Feel like I'm on a YouTube episode.
You
Feel
look
like I
like
need a
you're in a
hook.
YouTube episode. The setup is phenomenal.
Feel like I need a hook. Like if you need to know what cross neurotype communication is, keep watching. There's your hook.
Amazing. Thank you,
Yeah.
Danny.
Thank you. Much love for everybody.
I'm glad you're here. Dr. Bonnie, you are next.
All right. I'm Dr. Tina Bonney. I'm a clinical psychologist, she, her, and I am on the board of Autism Tennessee. And so thrilled actually to be here today to be a part of this.
Wonderful. We're so glad everyone is here. It's going to be a great discussion. I'm so excited. We've got so many things on the list across like cross neurotype communication and rejection sensitive dysphoria and just navigating different access needs and all of that good stuff. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So, our first few questions have to deal with cross neurotype communication. So our first question, Ashley, if you want to start us off again, what does a cross neurotype communication mean to you? So how does it show up in your relationship? And that can describe any relationship that comes to the front of your mind right now. It can be romantic, professional and working relationships, friends, etc.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So actually, I'm just kind of learning what cross-neurotype is. I'm aware that there are relationships where people are either autistic or not autistic or what have you on the spectrum. So for me, it's always the norm to in my life to experience um the autistic and the what is it what are the regular people called? Well, not regular. I don't like using that word.
Holistic.
Holistic.
No, neurotypicals. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. My partner's here now. He's not on the camera. But he's here. Um, so yeah, in my experience, it's always been like autistic or like autistic being in communication daily with neurotypical people. And that experience is, for me, has been kind of always ending up as like maybe a misunderstanding or um they expect things to be a certain way and it's not for us because we don't process it in that way. So I actually Googled this before I got on the panel and it basically said like our brains are wired differently. So that's kind of where it begins. So yeah, but in my relationship, we pretty much communicate the same. So I haven't really experienced a lot of that in my relationship, but as far as everyday work, it's always a difference. And I always find myself masking, and I don't really notice after the fact, especially after work. I'm like, oh, why am I so tired? Masking. So yeah, that's been my experience.
Wonderful, thank you. And you started getting into my next question too, which is like, how do you communicate in a way that might be similar or different than your partner? So that's really cool that y'all have worked together to like kind of get on the same page with communication and do that in similar ways. Wonderful, thank you. Casey and or Danny, you're welcome to talk about your own relationship or individually, but y'all are up.
Well, I was thinking about cross-neurotype communication yesterday, and I'm kind of smiling because me and Danny were talking about it in the car, and we had a completely different interpretation of it, but we actually didn't. We just weren't we just he was coming at it this way and I was coming at it that way, but we were really, so that was just an example of some cross neurotype communication right there. But I really see cross neurotype communication as an awareness that you know that your brain works differently than someone else's brain, and that the way that you might be processing or interpreting or sharing information is gonna be could be different than the other person. So I liked how you said it's a competency earlier, because if you don't like call out the concept, then most people might never even know that it is something they should be aware of and should be developing a competency around. So that is what I was thinking about on the definition of the term.
Wonderful. Thank you, Casey. And yeah, Danny, anything to add just like individually about your experience or in this
Yeah, I think looking at
mismatch in
things.
communication Casey was talking
Can
about?
you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I agree. So I think making aware of things and thinking about things from an analytical perspective can help tear down these things. Now, how do I make sense of what I just said? Um, Communicating with everybody, you can't assume everybody understands the same thing the same exact way you understand it. And I think you have to also understand yourself and analyze how you interpret information. And if you have an understanding of the self and you know how to communicate how you prefer to be communicated to, then there's multiple layers of awareness, I think. So a lot of it has to come from being a bit of a self-scientist. And if I don't understand myself and I'm not aware of these words or these concepts, then how can I communicate that to friends, family, lover, co-worker, and how can I get more clarity in certain things? Because sometimes you can be talking about the same things. You might be agreeing, but you might not be communicating it in the same fashion where it's understood the same way. And I think I've had that a lot where I got into unnecessary arguments and we were like, oh, we were kind of talking about the same thing. you know, I also thought a lot about like how often should I tell people. I work with a lot of different people. Like every weekend or every time I shoot the different wedding, it's a different photographer, different couple, and things like that. And I always ask myself, how often do I disclose that I've ADHD, or I'm on the spectrum or things like that, or how I want to be communicated with. But I don't want to ramble here too long. Sorry if I did.
No, not at all. Thank you, Danny. We need like truly just like an uncapped version of this conversation. That's 5 hours long. Thank you. Yeah, that self-awareness piece is so important. It's a muscle like anything else, and also helps us be able to advocate and negotiate what we want in relationships. So thank you for calling that out, Danny.
Also, if I can add, at what point are we supposed to educate others, and what point are they supposed to do their own research and understanding? Or what is the minimal way that you can explain someone how you like to communicate it with, or in what sense? And I think that can come in a lot of work related, a lot of situations where you have to adapt quickly and to get the most optimal of communication. Okay. I'm ready to hear it, other folks.
Sure. Thank you for that addition, Danny. Dr. Bonnie.
Right. I love that this is our topic today, because this is something that comes up so frequently in session with clients that are neurodiverse. And I think that, as several of you have said, that awareness is really key. Just recognizing that it's not right, wrong, but that it's different, and that those differences sometimes can lead to miscommunication. And so I see this come up a lot, not only in romantic relationships, but also at the workplace, and just in general in social settings. And so I feel like it's so important for that recognition on both sides, to be able to maybe meet in the middle somewhere with respect to being able to better understand what will make your communication most effective with neurotypicals, but then also being able to assertively request what kind of communication you would like, so that things don't get misunderstood or misconstrued. And that, again, that seems to be a real struggle for a lot of the people that I talk to. So I'm excited to move into the tougher questions here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just such a beautiful segue into our next question, which deals with those kind of miscommunications. Miscommunications are natural and common. They're bound to happen in whatever relationships we have. It could be a romantic relationship, partner, friend, um, teacher, coworker, etc. So maybe Dr. Bonnie, since this is on the mind, how would you say you communicate in a way? How do you navigate communicating with folks so regularly who don't have a brain that matches yours? Like, how do you navigate miscommunication or guide folks through miscommunication?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's the $100,000 question, right? And so I think that that awareness that people that have a neurodiverse, I'll just use that to cover everybody, a neurodiverse brain tend to be a lot more concrete, right, in the way that they explain and understand things, tend to be a lot more detail oriented, and ask a lot more questions for a lot more clarification, and also that they may not add as much what I kind of call fluff, right, to conversations, where they tend to be a lot more direct and just kind of say what's on their mind. And so that, not that there's anything wrong with any of those things, because there's not, but when having communication with someone who maybe that isn't their social norm, right, there can be a lot of misunderstanding about that, and it can be seen as either challenging or intentionally being hurtful or maybe even being rude sometimes, right? And so there's not always an understanding on the other side that this is just a different communication style. Which I appreciate intensely, which is why I love working with the neurodiverse population, because I prefer that communication style. But not everybody does, and not everyone knows really how to respond to that. And so I think part of that self awareness is recognizing that it's just different. And then we have to think about, okay, do we want to be effective in our communication, right? And so how can we do that in a way that not only allows us to get our message across clearly, but also to make sure that what we're asking for, right? If we need someone to be more detailed in their instruction, or we need to have a lot of questions answered, or if we don't like a lot of extra small talk or niceties, right, in conversation, then we can ask for that and say, I prefer that you be very direct with me, but very detailed, and that you recognize, right, that I may need more clarification, or I may not understand the way that you're describing it. And so I may ask several different ways, and that's not challenging, that's just seeking clarification. So I could go on and on with that, but I want to give everybody a chance. But those are the biggies that I see come up where there tends to be a mismatch between neurodiverse and neurotypical people.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bonnie. And it sounds like y'all are great at getting at what's coming next as well. So it sounds like also a neuroaffirming communication strategy that you're either helping folks through or just naturally doing yourself after working with a variety of folks for so long, is just like teaching them scripts and how to better advocate for the things they need, identifying what they like, need, don't need in relationships, and learning how to negotiate that with folks. So that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, and I'll repeat the question again. So it's how do you communicate in a way your partner, friend, etc. doesn't. So it can be someone on this panel or a different relationship example from your life. And how do you navigate the miscommunication? So I will take it back to Danny. Oh, you're muted, my friend.
Who can read lips? I'm kidding. So I think what can happen with me, or what tendency I have, is I am like 5 steps ahead in my head in my communication, and I forget certain things to say, or something like that, and then there's a question from the person who I just communicated with, and I'm like, oh, I thought I said that. So I guess sometimes I feel like I'm I would need to think a little bit more on how best to communicate it before speaking. Maybe sometimes I'm a little too fast. I don't know, H, help me out here a little bit. I don't know what to say.
Well, we usually we go on long walks in the afternoon, and sometimes it takes the entire walk for us to understand each other. But we get there. We really do come at our thinking processes from a very different way, I feel. Um, he's very visual thinker, and he sees all the stuff that's going on in his brain when he's talking about it. And I am a conceptual thinker, so I don't have any pictures or anything happening. It's all concept based. So that might be a source of sometimes having miscommunication because of the different ways that we process and 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 imagine or lack thereof. But that's an interesting topic to talk about too.
Or Or we may think we're disagreeing with something, but we weren't. But we may think we were, and we were trying to put the point across, but it was actually unnecessary because we actually agreed. You know, it's like maybe our ego brain wants to be right and then not move on or something. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot that goes into it, assumptions and things like that, assuming that the way I say something is understood by the recipient. And I don't know. I think it's a very multi-layer thing, and it has to do with a lot of learning of the other and other people around us and how they prefer communication or how best they can understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all. And you're getting at a couple of strategies for meeting each other more in that middle place, right? That more neuroaffirming way is like, okay, what do we know that's um, regulating and calming to us? We can go on a walk, and we can use that to talk it out to really see if we're saying the same thing, just in a different way. Yeah, so going on a walk and then also like time, which is uh, the less fun answer, I suppose, but sometimes it's also just time.
Mm.
Amy and Matt?
Amy and Matt?
Read your question.
Hello, we might have frozen for a second, which is amazing. Um, okay, are we still on this question or do we go to another question?
Yeah, we're still on the communication question. So how do you communicate in a way your partner, friend, etc. doesn't, and how you navigate the miscommunication? And some folks are uh, doing the step ahead thing we just mentioned, which is, if there's a strategy or exercise that you do together that helps with the miscommunication, you can name that as well.
Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Amy. I work with Sam at Autism Tennessee, and I'm just really grateful to be on this panel, which both has like peer experiences and like a clinical experience that feels pretty special to be in conversation together. And I think it's pretty exciting that Matt and I get to talk about like cross-neurotype communication with a new diagnosis. I got my ADHD diagnosis, which is like autism and ADHD last summer, with an Autism Tennessee community partner, which was really exciting. And so, kind of leading up to that, Matt and I were expecting, um, the diagnosis. So we had already kind of started changing a little bit and exploring different communication strategies. And then when I got the diagnosis, we kind of really settled in to a different pace. And what's really exciting is that Matt and I don't miscommunicate a lot. Our friends often tell us we have great communication skills. I don't really know why, except for like I think people get together. So Matt and I are in a romantic relationship. We call each other life partners. Like he's my partner, but we aren't married, and we have lived together for 10 years. So I think all of that context is really important. And so I think people like get together for a lot of different reasons. And maybe one of the reasons Matt and I have stayed together, like he said, for 12 years is because we learned to communicate with each other. And we definitely now don't have massive miscommunications. Like we might have minor miscommunications where one of us calls it out pretty directly in the moment. Be like, okay, we're miscommunicating, and then kind of the conversation pauses and we try to come back to a center and figure out what's going on. Um, but that doesn't mean we don't like talk and express differently, which we definitely do if you've been around Matt and me. We First of all, I was gonna do this panel just like naturally and like look over the questions. I mean, I wrote the questions with Sam, so it's like I got the questions. But like Matt printed them all out and we went like question by question last night and like wrote our answers down. Like Matt literally has them our answers printed. So,
Amazing.
um that's great. And that's a lot of like how our communication works is that like I can be pretty agile and like flexible in the moment and across like social experiences, and Matt really provides that like structure and rhythm and like pace, and that's just really complimented us um for 12 years. What you got?
Well, to go off script, this just came to me while we were sitting here. So we actually, the first 2 years of our relationship, we were long distance, and so that didn't come to me last night at all. But I think that was just key in really honing in on our communication in general, because that's kind of all you have for most of your time as a long distance relationship. So I would point that out as well. But yes, everything Amy said, she tends to generally be a little more hyper and I'm a little more reserved. And I like to write things down. And so yeah.
I also do want to say, like, what does cross-neurotype communication mean to me? And it was cool. Matt and I both wrote definitions because we both sat down for this first question, and but Matt was like, "Well, like, what definition are y'all using?" And I was like, "Well, not a lot of people are like using this word yet. There's not a ton of research. Like, this is a community conversation where we're going to be talking about this together and coming up with our own definitions based on our experiences and our professions. So like, what does this mean to you? And that was pretty cool, from what we both wrote down. But I also want to say, like, to me, cross neurotype communication means respecting the ways children communicate. I think when Danny was talking about how we educate people, or how we talk about different neurotypes has to start with children with different neurotypes, especially autistic children who often are uh put in like different therapies and schools that like change how they talk, and like that is a part of our community right now. And it's just really interesting that I want to say that like um we have a panel of adults talking about cross neurotype communication, but we have a gap of children or teens not on this panel who have had less experience with their communication, like going through an ableist filter. And children have just like had less access to an ableist world because they're younger. If we're just like going by an age dimension, I guess, which is what I'm going by. Um, there are other dimensions. Um, so cross-neurotype communication to me means respecting the ways autistic and neurodivergent children communicate, which is often completely different than a lot of other children. And very cool, I might add. I think that's us.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Thanks, y'all. I can just hear the celebration in like both of your voices. Um, and just how you do things differently. There's just this playfulness about it. Which
We
is
definitely hope
wonderful
to
to
answer
hear.
the next question. What is your favorite neuroaffirming communication strategy? We were
Yeah,
excited
we've been
to answer
kind of
that.
blending the questions, so if you'd like to go ahead and answer that, that is totally fine too.
You want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, for that one, I kind of mentioned it already. I really enjoy writing stuff down. I didn't mention it earlier. I have ADD. And so I have my own neurodivergence as well. And so, yeah, really writing stuff down, lists, post-it notes, having some printed calendars around where I can kind of keep track of things, and so they don't like slip my mind. It just really helped me to stay organized. And so that's something I really enjoy.
Yes, we have post-it notes like around our house on the walls of like things to remember and like place-based things, um, which is great. We have a lot of post-its always.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, great. I also wanted to say, Matt and I both talked about how we're literal people. But I think that I haven't heard this in a lot of autistic spaces, and the people on this call who know me, are not gonna be shocked. But like, so where Matt and I are both literal, I'm also very gullible, and I would love to talk about like autism and gullibility. And it's something people think is like really funny, because you can get me with a lot. And it's just like funny until it's not funny, if that makes sense. Because then I don't know what's going on. And like there's been like a lot of cross neurotype miscommunication. So often like the people in my life who are close to me will like act as a translator when people have realized that they can talk to me like that and I'm gonna believe them. And so there's like a literalness, but then like a gullibility that's in there too that I think is really interesting and I don't hear talked about in like the autism space quite yet, or the autistic community. And then yeah, so we have like ADHD and ADD in our house, just like kind of hyper and then really reserved and quiet. So we often talk about how we've like found our opposite energies that like yin and yang. And that's like whereas where Matt grounds me, I um
Push me sometimes. Yeah,
okay,
I
I was like,
like
I don't
to
know what
push.
you want me to say.
Yeah.
Like, um, and my favorite neuroaffirming communication strategy, I wrote down is play. So, when you go through a clinical autism diagnosis, you might get like different profiles. So, a part of my profile is like hyperverbal. So, that means I talk a lot and I process things out loud. So, over time, like I've had to learn my neurotype even before I knew I was autistic and always knew that I talked a lot. So, I like to like carry around card decks. So sometimes like just I have lots of different card decks and they're fun to pull out whether Matt and I are going out to dinner or if I'm going out to dinner with friends or I'm sitting in the park. I also have like an imagination book that a lot of people have seen that's just really beautiful illustrations. And we can just like talk about the art of it all. I also have really started to bring around Uno. So I always have like a card game and it's just kind of like a quick energy exchange. A lot of different people and minds can play Uno. And then I do love when autistic people can have layered conversations. So I can have layered conversation, which means I have this one friend where we can literally, I talk, it looks like layers. I mean, it feels like layers. Like the exchanges are just like doom, 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 doom. And we just like can keep up with each other very quickly. And it's almost like we're okay. What people think is like talking over each other, like we can talk with each other. So we can both talk at each other at the same time and both follow what's going on. And I like love when I can talk with someone like that because it means like I get to talk as much as I want to talk and they're not waiting to talk. Like we're both talking with each other instead. Like I just think that conversations are actually like structured in really ableist ways and autistic communication methods are really exciting and like can open up a lot of different ways to dialogue and that's just from myself and even the conversations I've had with a lot of people on this call. And then the last thing I'll say is I ask a ton of questions. So my question practice is very important to me. It's probably very neurodivergent if you've ever been a part of it. It's just really intentional and specific and caring, and I'm trying to connect why all these things matter to you. So all of that is a strategy based in like play and connection.
Wow, what a generous answer, y'all. Oh my goodness. And just thinking about additional strategies y'all named after naming a few of your own, it's like y'all both agree to be okay with being a learner, and to study each other, which is really, really cool. And also the just naming, hey, we're having a miscommunication, naming it and taking that beat, taking that breath to identify it and start again. Um, so yeah, thank you both for that generous answer. Um, Casey.
Well, let's see. There's simple strategies. Sorry, dog barking. Hear the dog barking.
We did a little bit, but it stopped. Oh, there we go.
Well, some of the strategies other than taking walks, because when Danny and I go for walks together, we really can get to the bottom of not even, being in a disagreement with each other, but just coming to an understanding around a topic. And also on our walks, we use it as info dumping sessions. So he really likes to info dump to me about the things he's super interested in. And then I will sometimes do the same. But what I really enjoy on as part of our neuroaffirming strategies for communication is really info dumping together over our shared interests. Like recently, we could talk for hours and hours and hours about the strategies that timeshare salespeople use to get you to buy a timeshare. Like that has been our super deep topic of interest lately. We have watched every single YouTube video and analyzed it and like love talking about it. And so that's one topic. And another one recently has been how mitochondria turn food energy into human and cellular energy. Like we love going on walks and sharing interest and just not being able to stop going deeper and deeper into those subjects together. And then Danny has recognized that I am likely pretty demand avoidant. So he will ask me things in a way that doesn't sound like it's like requiring me to do things. And that has been a helpful strategy for me. And also, Danny can be the louder person in our relationship, and I am a bit sensory sensitive to that. So I have used body language to ask him to lower his voice, and it's a specific, and he gets. Oh, and the last thing, a neuroaffirming communication strategy that we use are poems. So I'm not a poet. I'm not a poet, Sam. I know you are. And so please don't judge me, but I will like journal a situation that we experienced together and my feelings about it and ask ChatGPT to turn it into a poem directed to Danny, and then I'll send it to him. And that really is a nice communication strategy we use.
I love that leaning towards art to try to communicate what maybe you can't find the exact words for. That's so beautiful. All right. Thank you, Ashley. Any other thoughts on our communication piece, whether it's navigating a miscommunication or what your favorite neuroaffirming communication strategies might be?
Yeah, so for me, I'm kind of piggybacking off of the other panelists. Like Amy, I love carrying around decks of cards. And y'all don't judge me, but I have the same deck of Uno cards I've had since like late 2000s. And they look kind of raggedy. So I
Do you
gotta
know
get them.
how many games those have played?
Man, listen,
Energy
yeah.
are in those cards? It's
Let me
amazing.
tell you, I brought them to a game night one day, and there was a guy who was participating, and he tried to buy them from me.
I'm interested. They're definitely
I
vintage. It's
forgot
like,
I
what do
forgot
the
his
colors
name.
look like? What does the font
I'll
look like?
I'll email you.
Great.
They listen. The box has duct tape. It's got duct tape. It's sad. The
Sarah
kids was
also has her
like,
deck from her childhood.
the kid was like, Miss Ashley, get some new cars. So yeah, I love card games. I had got like this. What was the name of that deck of cards? Um, go deeper. It was deeper something. It's a purple deck. I got it from Barnes and Noble. So those types of card games help with like asking relationship questions. But the main thing that really helped us was like checking in once a week. Um, and now that's kind of like ingrained. Like we're always asking, like, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Hmm.
Is there anything you want to address or talk about, whether it's weekly or monthly?" And that kind of helps there not be any surprises, or that helps to keep the other person feel like they're seen and heard and appreciated because they may be feeling or thinking of something and they haven't said anything or you just don't know. So that really helps to keep the communication pretty open. Also not having any judgment about things. Um and what else? Yeah, communication really, I've learned that there's a lot of judgment in like every kind of relationship. So the whole no judgment thing is pretty big because you need to be able to feel like you can say anything and not be judged for it. So yeah. Oh, and we talk a lot about art. Yeah, yeah. My Uno cards are from my childhood, Sarah. That's why they look so janky. Yeah, I didn't want to let them go. I'm just gonna buy a new deck. I'll just keep those. So yeah, we play games and we talk and we go on walks too. Spend a lot of time together. So yeah, it's been good. No argument yet, right? Okay, we still good. We still good, y'all.
There's that check-in you mentioned.
Huh?
There's that check-in you mentioned.
Yeah, I gotta check in. Gotta check in.
Yeah, I love how you called attention to like ways you and the person in a relationship might need structure. So some folks really love that structure, that reliable, like consistent once a week checking in, and then for others that
Absolutely.
have spoken about like maybe that unstructured play time is really important. So time to just like focus on either a shared interest together or parallel play where you're both like maybe in the same room focusing on your own individual interests. So I love hearing the variety from folks. That's really cool. Um, and something that might be a part of that is stimming. So our next few questions will be about stimming. Everybody stims. It's not specific to autistic people. Everybody stims. It's kind of that like repetitive movement you might do to self-soothe. Um, One really common one that comes to mind that I do is like the cricket legs in bed as you're winding down, or just twirling a pen. Everybody stims. It can involve movement, sound, touch, sight, or other sensory experiences. So our next question is about your favorite way to stim, or otherwise meet sensory needs either by yourself or together. And how do you navigate when you have conflicting sensory needs? Danny and Casey just mentioned like Casey might ask Danny to like bring the volume down a little bit. So, um, Ashley, would you like to start us off on this question?
I have well, I don't do a lot of stimming, but I like to watch videos that are of my interest that calm me down. or a big thing for me is music, calming music, and video games, surprisingly enough. Yeah, I play a lot of retro video games, and yeah, I mean, fidget spinners, whatever. But I mean, I have those toys, and sometimes I put them in my purse or my backpack, but it's mostly playing a game or music or
It's great.
anything creative, you know.
Yeah, music is a one that I share with you. Like the stemming nature for me is listening to the same song 20, 30, 40 times in a row.
It's
Do I
not
get
gonna
tired
get
of it?
old.
Absolutely not. Ah, Casey, what is your favorite way to stem either by yourself or meeting sensory needs with a partner? And how do you navigate conflicting sensory needs?
I'm very restless. I need constant movement in my body. So sitting still can be overwhelming to me. So that's why I like sitting in my little rocking chair right now. And I have another little rocking chair and I have actual couches, but I prefer to sit in the fold out rocking chairs that I have because I can move. And then, I mean, like, I like to do karaoke at my house and sing and just like singing and belting out my favorite songs and trying to sound exactly like the actual performer is another way that I can really get energy out of my body when I'm kind of overwhelmed. And it really makes me feel so good. And then let's see. I mean, I'm always fidgeting with my hands too. Um, and but so that I have like all the things, all the sensory toys, aids, and then that's pretty much it. Just getting like staying in movement helps me feel regulated.
Thank you, Casey. Yeah, movement is so important. I mean, that's like another like awareness piece, right? It's just like what kind of movements can you identify that'll help regulate yourself or calm you down or just make you feel good. Thank you. Amy and Matt.
Yeah, so for stimming, I have some couple small fidget toys, stimming toys, aids that pocket size and quiet that I can kind of take them anywhere. And then one thing that I enjoy too is like small token items that are kind of like meaningful to me, or they have some type of meaning or sentimental value to me. And so that's kind of a unique thing that I enjoy.
And I just think it's really beautiful that we're going around talking about some of the ways we STEM. I think we could probably do that more as autistic people. So, I am gonna talk more about like meeting sensory needs. And so I typically do that. I really started to feel comfortable with like a blanket, like I have a blanket over me right now. I have a like a crocheted hat that I'll wear from time to time, and people at work have seen me. It's called my tulip hat, and it's like a crocheted tulip. It just feels like I put it on and it felt like a hug for my head. And I just was like, I feel like I'm gonna need this as like a resource. That's what they say anyway with these meltdowns. And like really got into the cozy sensory well-being game. Like allowed myself to just be like hugging stuffed animals more. Because I am a really touch forward person. I like hugging. I've always, for some reason, loved rubbing people's backs, like and massaging people's backs. Um, like it literally does make me feel good. So if like I don't know. So in terms of like helping each other regulate, we like rub each other's backs a lot. And I literally will look at him and I'm like, why are people dating long term if we're not rubbing each other's backs? Like, because we can't, it's weird. We live in a culture where touch is really political and and I could also have a conversation about that. And consent is also really important. Don't just go touching people. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Um, and so we also have just kind of allowed ourselves to like do just like do like 5 minute like massages and just like helping move each other's like energies after the workday or after an especially intense like social experience for one of us. And that really just like body contact is pretty important for me. And I like holding hands. I uh yeah, I would just say pretty within this kind of last year, really, we've both had to center just kind of like squeezing and just kind of like working energy through our shoulders and our backs, which has been great. And then we were thinking about conflicting stuff, and sometimes like noise can be conflicting. Like he'll come home and I'll be like blasting the music really loudly and not knowing that it's loud. And we've learned like that my body is feeling loud. And Matt will be like, okay, it's on like 47. Like, do you need water? Do you need something? Like, this is really loud, dude. And just kind of helping me like I'm processing externally through the music and really helping me understand like how he can't have the music that loud. So like what else can we do here? Or like, do you even know this is really loud? So sometimes like volume and that can be with my voice tone too, where I'm talking really loudly and not necessarily noticing and um Matt will give me some cues that it's too loud for him. And uh, that's pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for volume for me, as a sound guy, that's something that I went to school for and spent a lot of years in my career doing. And so that, and then yeah, I'm definitely sensitive to loud noises. For instance, if a fire truck or something's going down the street and it feels too loud, like I will want to put my fingers in my ears and stuff like that. So that gives you some insight into, my side of that piece. And then yeah, but when something like that comes up, I feel like just trying to, remember the spirit of why Amy might be telling me something very loudly, and the joy of it, and just like bringing that into the mix as well as I tell her maybe it's a little too loud for me right now.
Thanks, y'all. And Danny.
Hello, 1, 2. I completely agree with Matt. I'm the same way. I am very sensitive to certain frequencies and certain types of sounds, and I feel the same way. Like I could put like my whole. Once I nearly had not a wreck, but I was walking on the street in Boston, and right next to me, a loud. What is it called? First responder came by and like literally jumped. And Casey, you saw that a couple of times. But I also do a lot of different types of stimming, like vocally, like I love beatboxing, I love like making accents up. And the funny thing is, it's kind of like helping me think. Like I'm sure you've seen these like in movies where you see like the mathematical equations all of a sudden appearing in front of somebody. Like when I do this stuff, I kind of imagine a bunch of stuff in front of me, kind of like figuring stuff out. But I recognize that that can be annoying if I say some one word thing in a British accent like multiple times, and it's annoying. or I beatbox, or I can be pretty loud, but that also kind of runs in the family. My mom is the big loud person, but my dad also loves to whistle, so I do some weird whistling too. Yeah, if we're talking about stimming, yeah, I do a lot. And there was a part where I forget to practice, and then once I picked up my guitar, I realized, holy cow, I missed this. Like I missed having the vibration feeling of the guitar on my hands. Or I oftentimes practice at the same time as I'm watching a movie, and a lot of times people are like, oh, how could you like focus on one thing? And I'm like, for some reason that centers me, and I can tell I can do the two things at the same time, and it kind of, I don't know, I guess puts me in a zen mood, you know. So music is a big part of me, just like for you, Ashley, and for everybody else whose music brings centerness in their lives, you know. Anything else, H, that you remember what I do every time?
A lot of echolalia.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. My best friend who moved back to Venezuela, he would drive me nuts. But there would be times where he would be like singing the same BES for like hours, and then he does this sometimes, and then I'd be like, that's a little too much. I think it also depends on how socially tired I am, how much energy I have, and who I am with, because I can't really just do that in the middle of work, be walking around unless the client is fun. Then I'm like. you know, but yeah. Anything else, H? No? Yeah. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, Danny. Way to talk about like how y'all navigate the mismatched sensory needs there. I am also the echolalia person in my household. So I hear you. But that's where like our strengths of direct communication can come into play, where it's like, we can just very directly like, hey, I am overstimulated. Can you like take it down? Um, so yeah, thank you, Danny.
I think one of the hard things is not to feel like you're dissed or not to feel rejected when somebody else's needs are different from yours at the moment. And I think that's hard sometimes for me because I have experienced a lot of rejection in my upbringing in school and things like that where I couldn't be by myself. Not until I was at Berkeley where I feel like, oh, I can be me and people like me. But it's hard to kind of forget or move on from these things that have been ingrained in you for so long. So I think when somebody tells me, oh, you're too loud, part of the signaling could be, oh, you're not loved the way you are. Therefore, it gives some form of a negative feedback loop inside of you. Now, the other thing is that equal to truth? No, because that person who's there loves you. They don't not love what you're doing. They just have a different level of stimuli intake they can take from you. Now I know I went on a big tangent, so let me know if that all makes sense or
Yeah,
not.
I'm following you. Yeah. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you kind of like got into this because the question that we might wrap up with today is about that kind of rejection and navigating that in relationships, especially for folks who might experience that in a heightened, more painful way. Um, so thanks for
Yep.
thinking ahead, one of your strengths. Um, Thank you, Danny. All right, Dr. Bonnie.
All right. Are we on the rejection sensitivity question?
We were wrapping up like sensory needs. What's your favorite way to stim? Or if you're helping someone to identify that, like what are some tools you have available for folks? But if you'd like, we can start with
Okay.
the rejection
Yeah.
question if that's on your mind.
No, that's all right. We can stick with the stimming for a while. I would say, it's so different. It's such a unique kind of a um, issue, right, for each and every person that I really think that a big part of being able to successfully partner is just really understanding and being open and tolerant of that. And so that I think requires a lot of communication and openness about, what does that mean, right? Even I think being able to attend to multiple things at a time can be a version of that, right? And again, can be interpreted as someone not paying attention or not really being interested or invested in what you're saying. And it really may be about, I just need more input right now. I need to be doing 2 or 3 things at a time. And so sharing that openly and really helping the other person understand that, I think, is key. The other thing I do, though, is I work with clients a lot in mindfully creating spaces for themselves in their own home that allows them to meet their sensory needs. And so I think, we've gotten a little better as a society about creating those spaces in therapeutic places and even some public spaces now. But I'm a big believer that we need that at home too. And so really educating our partners about that, really explaining, that there might be a time during the day, right, where I'm going to disappear for a little while. And I really need that respect or that space, right, to be able to meet those sensory needs. And I think making that really intentional is important, because unfortunately, when we don't do that, we can kind of get to a point where we're overstimulated and we don't realize it. Right. And so I think as a practice, just as a daily practice, the same way that we might do, meditation or mindfulness or exercise, that we need to mindfully carve out time to be able to meet sensory needs in a really, semi-structured sort of a way. And again, really educate either life partners or roommates or whatever the case may be, right, about the importance of that, and really respecting that. So that's what I would say about
Yeah, thank you. Are there any stims that you find yourself doing, like twirling hair
that.
or pens or whatever? We've been talking about everybody's stims. Is there anything like that you do?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to be a hair twirler for sure. And so that was a subject of many family discussions for a long, long time. And so I've made an active effort not to do that. And so now I think it's more, you know, finding things that just allow me to get that input, right, or to get that self-soothing, without necessarily doing the hair twirling. And so that can be a lot of things. I have a lot of rituals for myself. And so sometimes just going through those rituals just really helps me to focus and stay regulated for myself. But it changes a lot. I would say for me, it really is a little bit like some of my perceptive interests will change every so often. And so I think the stimming does too. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's necessarily one that's standard. I'm flexible that way.
Yeah, love that. We can all stim in a variety of ways. I love that. I love that so much. And Dr. Bunny, I'm hoping you'll start us off with the RSD question too. So I will our handy dandy definitions here. Yeah, so this brings kind of what will probably be our last question of the evening, just about how to navigate this. Rejection sensitive dysphoria is a common experience for autistic and neurodivergent people. So I'll be asking, like, how does it show up or not show up in y'all's relationships? And any, like additional comments y'all want to make about that, like how to navigate that together. Yeah, so we'll start there with that question, Dr. Bonnie.
Yeah, this is a great one. It's gotten so much attention lately in the clinical literature, which is great, as we, kind of educate ourselves and become more aware of what this might look like, or, when we as clinicians maybe are looking at it as a cognitive error, right? We really need to know what the root of that is, and really where that comes from. And so I do see it a lot, again, with the clients that I work with, right, where they may have a really tough time, right, with perceived criticism or, perceived rejection. And so I would say it's definitely twofold. Sometimes we really do need to break it down and really look at, was there maybe a miscommunication or a misunderstanding there, right? Was it really criticism, or was it really rejection, right? And if it was, looking at how we process that, and really being able to utilize some of those either self-soothing kinds of techniques, right, or seeking somebody to help with external processing, right, to be able to really just talk about it and get it out and roll it over kind of with someone else. I think that, again, it's gotten a lot more attention, and so I'm really eager to hear from you all how you experience that, and what you have found helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Bonnie. And yeah, just to reaffirm our definition, because I think I forgot to just read the slide to you all. So RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, is an extreme and often distressing emotional response to perceived, real, we can get into the logistics of those words, rejection or criticism, which goes beyond the typical range of reaction. So it's not just being sensitive to that. It's a more distressing experience for folks, and it can cause disruption to a person's capacity to engage in relationships, work, and a variety of aspects of life. Can lead to things like meltdowns, larger rifts and miscommunication, and so on. So I will pass this question to Danny.
Okay, there are a lot of things that come to my mind when it comes to this, and I have experienced this a lot, and a lot of it I think had to do with me wanting to be perfect and not having what is it called, not being wrong, or fear of being wrong, or that I did something wrong and I would feel very badly, and I would, I guess, self-punish myself with these negative feelings. And of course I work for myself, so I had to learn to deal with no's. And I did a lot of digging and a lot of like advice from self-employed like CEOs and people like that, and a lot of folks talked about how, other people's perceived version of you it's not the truth. It's ultimately, if you know yourself, if you are confident within yourself and you know your value, then what other people think of you is not the truth. I know I'm going a little meta there, because it's a hard subject, because I have felt it. I have felt rejection in dating. I felt rejection. Took me a long time to find H, and I've went through so many rejections that the way then I treated it was I assumed that nothing is gonna happen with anybody, so that I don't feel rejected. But is that healthy? I don't know if it's healthy. I don't know. I didn't want to assume any sort of a way, but of course it affected me, and I think it comes down to a lot of things that people expected of me, from me when I was a kid, based on what aspect of career I was going into. I felt like I had to prove, not only for myself but other people, that I can do it. So that added a lot of multiple layers that gave these sort of feelings that I had, that I think only if you kind of face the monster with an analytical approach of, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this person or that person needs to like me and things like that, then the answer is just loving oneself and accepting oneself, and not saying that person is right because he said so, because he's got or she or they have a version of what I am, and now I feel rejected because I wasn't liked by that person. But I went on a big old tangent over here. I hope something makes sense. But I have felt it, and I try to kind of understand why and ask myself, is that feeling valid here? Because the definition does say that it's a perceived rejection, which perceived, it's like I might put that onto myself because I perceive that to be a rejection. But if I work on understanding the root cause of that feeling, maybe I can face it and feel it less. But I don't want to discredit anybody's experience of this, because it is real. I have felt it. I'm just trying to kind of understand it. I don't know. Somebody please come rescue me from talking more. Rescue me.
No, I love that we're kind of talking about this, because the definition does say perceived, and a lot of these definitions that we, this is still being studied too. Rejection sensitive dysphoria and this idea of perceived rejection is very interesting. So to kind of just comment on your meta conversation here, we're kind of getting into, like, even if there's a difference in perception, someone's perception of what happened and the facts of what happened, it all makes up someone's reality, right? And we can't make assumptions about someone else's experience.
That's true.
Yeah, so thank you for pointing that out. Good evening, and thank you everybody for attending this panel. Like I said, I hope to I like to imagine a version of this that's just like completely without limitation and ends up being 5 hours long. It's definitely in the world of possibility. But thank you all for your time and for such thoughtful, generous conversation. Don't let the conversation end here. Again, please sign up for the newsletter, stay in touch. Autism Tennessee has a variety of peer support groups where autistic folks can find connection. So if you're looking for that, please stay in touch. And yeah, definitely more panels to come, more discussions. So stay tuned for those, y'all. But this is where we'll end it for this evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank